It's still a little cold for mittens here, but how about if we make that mitten too? Are you scared? I'm a little scared. Hey everyone, Cristin Som here, and I pulled my mittens out just for you today. Even though it's 81 degrees, it's still not warm enough for mittens. But today we are going to make that mitten 2. That's the one that has the dimensional pocket in it. And I've heard some people be a little bit scared of the mitten, and I read through it. It doesn't look that bad. We'll get through it together. Don't worry. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about where we're at so far. So as you know, we have done section 1 completely. And we've done lots of section 2. So we did the treetop and the tree bucket, and you guys did amazing on that. After I made lots of mistakes, I was determined to sew that pocket in there closed. But I finally got it. We made the first mitten, which is just adorable. That was a very simple applique mitten. This one is going to be a pocket one. And we started on the Mary blocks. So we have all of them. If you did the same as I did, then you did all, 5 of them? And the Y will be for section 3. So I'm only showing you some of them for now. And then we did the snuggle block as well. So that's where we're at so far. And today like I said, we're going to do the mitten block. So the mitten block is on page 39 of our booklet. And like I said, this is mitten 2. We already did mitten 1. You just saw it. This one, I want to point out a couple of things about stabilizer real quick. So we are going to use all the regular stabilizers that we've been using all along. So we've used the light mesh cutaway stabilizer in our hoop. This is great for in the hoop. So I had some questions recently about tearaway. I like tearaway in the hoop too. There are a couple of negatives. Some people say that the quilt won't be as soft. I don't care about that because my quilt hangs on a wall. I don't care about that part. But Katie Mayo actually pointed out that it's easier for stitching in the ditch when you've used the light mesh cutaway versus tearaway. And I found that to be true. I used this for our spring showers quilt. And it does make it easier for that ending process of stitching in the ditch. So either one works fine, but I am now sold on using the Kimberbell Light Mesh Cutaway. So that's what I use for in the hoop. The fusible backing is what we put on the back of all of our fabrics. Some people only do it on the main fabric piece. I do it on all the applique pieces, everything. I find it a lot easier. So we went over that with the cutting and prepping video in the very beginning. I do use fusible backing on everything. And then we've used, I'm almost out of this one, but I do have another one, thank you, for the project batting. So the project batting, this is what we use on every block when we're quilting in the hoop. And I go through this very, very quickly. But the project batting is great. I really like that. I used to use the Warm and Natural, and that works fine too. But this one is just the right loft. It's easy to use. I really like this one for our Kimberbell quilts. I'm finding it works great. So on this block particular though, we have 2 different stabilizers that we need to add to the mix. So the first one is the wash away stabilizer. Wash away embroidery stabilizer. You can see it's got the teal label on it, and we are going to use that for this block. It's very important for this block. We are going to hoop 2 sheets of the wash away stabilizer for the first part. This block is done in 2 parts, part A and part B. We will use this for part A, and I will go over it in detail, but hopefully you've got some wash away stabilizer. Whenever you start a new quilt, you can always see what stabilizers will be needed. In the front of the booklet, it'll tell you everything that's needed. So wash away stabilizer for this one. There's other types of wash away stabilizer. Can't think of any of them off the top of my head. I want to say that there's something called Vilene. I don't remember if that's accurate or not, but anyway, this one is not that one that you put on the top so there's different wash away stabilizers. There's one that you put on the top when you're working with like minky or anything that the stitches will sink down. This is not that one. This is thicker, and if you used that other one in your hoop, you'll very likely, it will just rip right out. So you want this type, and you can, hopefully you can see this. It is, like I said, Kimberbell Wash Away Embroidery Stabilizer, and it's great for in the hoop. And we're going to use 2 layers of it for our mitten block for part A. The other one is medium tearaway. I think I only have the big one of medium weight. This comes in light, which I think is pink, and then there's a heavy, which I think is like a dark orange. I could be wrong. Maybe it's like a dark burgundy-ish color, but anyway, the medium is red, and I think I only have the big one of that. But we will use this as well, and we're just going to use a tiny little piece of it actually. So I will go over all of those steps together, little bits at a time. Don't worry, this is not going to be as hard as you're thinking. I saw a lot of people commenting in the Kimberbellas group and in the My Girlfriend's Quilt Shop group that they had a lot of trouble on this block. And so a lot of people are afraid of it, but we will get through it fine. Don't worry, we've gotten through everything so far. We're doing great. So we're on block mitten 2. I put the page numbers on each of mine, so it's basically number 39 for me because this is on page 39 of our booklet. So let's quickly just go over what supplies that we need for this. And notice I'm going to point out that some of them are duplicated, because like I said, there's a part A and a part B. So the first one is this very pretty, love this. So gray, it's going to go this way, I believe. Yep, gray with white snowflakes all over it. Yeah, it's like a muted white, so it's almost like gray and light gray maybe, but I guess it's white. Anyway, on this main fabric, like I said, the light gray with snowflakes on it, we're going to start with this at 6.5 by 8.5. Make sure to back this with Fusible Stabilizer so to ward off puckers. We're going to do a lot on this block, so make sure to have this properly stabilized. 6.5 by 8.5 for our main fabric and just one piece of this. All right, and then we're going to jump into the duplicates. So for our mitten, we have this red silky solid. We're going to have 2 pieces of this, and they are going to be 4.5 by 5, and this is for the mitten, fabric 2 for the mitten. What did I say? 4.5 by 5, 4.5 by 5, and 2 of these. I did back mine with Fusible Stabilizer. I really like that. That part is a personal choice. You don't absolutely have to do it on these. I find it very helpful when I cut it. The pieces don't fray all over the place and make a big mess, and you can see it's just crisper. I like the look of this. Some people use starch. I don't remember what it's called. I've never used it, but some people do that instead. Whatever works. Your quilt, your way, doesn't matter. So red silky solid, 2 pieces, 4.5 by 5 for the mitten. All right, and that's for part A and part B. And then same thing for the cuff. We have 2 of them, and these are going to be 3 by 2.5, and I did back these with Fusible Stabilizer. So 3 by 2.5, that means it goes this way, 3 by 2.5. On the other mitten, I actually did it this way, if you noticed on the tutorial, and I might do that again, I don't know, probably not, but I just liked the way that the stripes landed when I did it that way. So either way, 3 by 2.5, 2 pieces for the cuff of the mitten, and like I said, I did back mine with Fusible Stabilizer. All right, and then we are going to quilt this. So whenever we quilt, we always use batting. I'm using the Kimberbell Project Batting, and we just need 1. Even though we are doing 2 hoopings, we're only quilting 1, and that's why we have 1 main fabric. We're going to quilt that 1 piece. So the final cut size, where is that? I think it's 4.5 by 6.5. Final cut size. Yep, 4.5 by 6.5. 4.5 by 6.5 is our cut size, our final cut size. So that means we want a piece of batting that is 5 by 7. I always do them a 1/2 inch larger than the final cut size. So 5 by 7 for your piece of batting. And for this one, we're going to quilt, and it will be on part B, and I'll go over that step by step. But for part B, we are going to quilt it. And what is our quilting? Here it is, Winter 2. Oh, cute, cute. That's the one with the snowman. So the snowman and the swirls, that will be super cute for this. So we're going to use 4 by 6 for Winter 2. And like I mentioned before, Winter 2 is in the bundle pack for the Cup of Cheer quilting. I mentioned that only because I saw a lot of people used the winter, I think it was just called winter, I'm not sure, but winter of the clear blue tiles, that table runner that we did together, and you can absolutely use that. If I recall, it's just got swirls on it, and that absolutely works. But if you bought the bundle pack, you have this quilting design. It is Winter 2, and it's the one with swirls and snowmen. So we're going to use that in 4x6. And one other thing is that we are going to center the quilting design and the mitten design together. So we will do that either on the embroidery machine or on software. I think I'll do it on the embroidery machine, just as it's easier for everyone to see it and know how it does. When you load it in almost all machines, it will automatically go to the center, so you shouldn't have any problem, but you want to check it just to be sure. And you probably know your machine better than I know all of them, because I certainly don't. All right, so we will go through all of this step by step. If you have done finger puppets in the past, I do have some in my playroom actually, but finger puppets or bags, lots of things do where you put fabric on the back of your hoop, and that's basically what we're going to do to make the pocket on this mitten. And it's not a difficult thing. We are going to use pins to line it up. There's also in the list of supplies that we need, there's cotton swab, and that's to be able to clean up the excess wash away stabilizer. So either way, I probably will just spritz it and run my finger along it, but you can use a cotton swab, whatever works. All right, so we will go over it step by step. Did you see? I've had this sitting on my chair, so I just wanted to point it out. This was from my friend Margie. Isn't it so cute? I love this. She sent this to me. There's lots of gifts here. Look at the bike flag and so many fun. And I don't know if you can see that rope bowl. Oh my gosh. So I have to tell you real quick. I went to a rope bowl making class the other day. Sucked at it. I really sucked at it. So I'm super impressed by this rope bowl. And it's pink and sparkly. Isn't that so cute? I love it, love it, love it. So you guys have been so sweet sending so many fun things for me. But anyway, just... my craft room is such a happy place. I'm very, very happy here. So anyway, let's get started making our mitten. Hey everyone, so you have part A done, right? It wasn't as bad as you thought. We're actually going to do the hard part next, and really it's just lining this up with the next part, but I'll show you how. I've read through the directions. It doesn't look too bad at all, but this is what it should look like so far. We've cut away most of the excess stabilizer. You can't really get all of it in between, but that's fine. It says in the directions, I think it was 1/8 of an inch away, so like a little bit in there, and that's fine. And don't forget, we have these two ends on here. We have not cut those away yet. We just cut away the top and the bottom so that we could do that satin stitching. So hopefully yours looks like this too, and we'll move on to part B. The mitten. So a couple little tips. First off, don't stress over it. Don't try to be perfect with your mitten. Yours might come out perfect. Mine did not, and I'm okay with that. So I will say that I did it. I finished it late last night, and I thought it looked fine, but it was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So what I did is I took out all of the stitches in the back and then pulled it up on the front, and I did it again. And I used the special feature of my Brother Luminaire where it's got a projection, and I projected it and I lined it up just right, and I was like, all right, this is the way to go. And it still is not perfect. So you can see, and like I said, I would not have torn it out, and I would have been just totally fine with it. But considering I'm doing the tutorials, I thought, all right, well, let's just give it a try this way. And it still was not perfect. So you can see on the edge here that it goes up just a tad. And when I was lining it up on the projection, it looked perfect. It looked absolutely perfect. And one thing I will point out is that when it's stitching the mitten part, you're like, yeah, I rocked it, very good. And then it gets to the cuff and it's off just by ever so slightly. And so my suggestion is lose the perfection. It may not be absolutely perfect. Yours may come out even better and great, you know, all power to you, but I wouldn't stress over it too much. So it does say in the directions that lining up the cuff is more important than lining up the mitten, and I fully agree with that. The mitten was perfect, absolutely perfect. Another tip I want to give is when you trim, before you do the satin stitch, you're going to trim all of the excess fabric around your mitten, and that's really important because you're gonna see any little edges. I don't have any on mine because I really worked hard at getting that, and it's harder to trim that part away because it's thicker. There's 2 layers of fabric, and mine both had the fusible stabilizer on the back, so it was pretty thick, but I was able to get it, and that part of mine I'm very happy with. It looks great. The only part you can see that mine goes up just a tad on both of the edges, and I'm telling you, when you line it up even with the projector, it looks like it couldn't be more perfect, and it's off just a tad. But keep in mind that this is a pocket, right? So there's a pocket in there, so it just looks like it's kind of pulled or off or something because of the pocket. I'm not worried about it. So those of you that are perfectionists, just do your best. So one other tip that I have is I used these decorative pins at first, just because that's what I had, and they're thicker. You don't want one that's got a big thick needle in there, or pin, whatever you call it. When you are putting it through that the placement stitch, or really the tack down stitch, mine kind of pulled from that, and I'm wondering if that was my big issue. I ended up not doing these after, and I just used my regular needles, or pins, sorry, my regular pins, and this worked way better. This went right through exactly where I wanted it to go, but by then I already had the hole from the previous. So don't just use your regular little pins, or if you have thumbtacks that have a thin little point to them, then do that. But you can see don't use the thick ones. I just ordered a set off of Amazon since there are other projects that we need thumbtacks for, and I've never had a set, so I did order some. If those work out great and they're thin and sharp, I will add a link, but I'm not going to until I test them out, because these really were not. Don't use these. Don't use something like this. So those are my tips. Use a very sharp, thin pin when you are placing your fabric, your part A, onto the placement stitch for part B. Use a thin, sharp pin and let the perfection go. It will be fine. I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's totally fine. Who's gonna know, right? And I mean, really, we are always our worst critics, and that's one thing I really don't like about embroidery, is that the people that post, oh, I did this, but it didn't come out very good, and that's where your eye goes, right? That's what everybody notices, and otherwise people would not have noticed. So just let that part go. Just enjoy the journey and make your little pocket block. How cute is this? How cute. So I believe it's a candy cane that goes in here when we do our Advent pieces. But anyway, it's super cute, super great. Just don't stress if it's off a little bit. It will be fine. And like I said, I did cut mine out and do it again. I actually did it 3 times, and it's not perfect. So don't stress over it. Just enjoy it. It's all good, I promise. And my shirt today is not embroidered. It's a gift from my mother. It says, we don't know how strong we are until being strong is the only choice that we have, something like that. And I'm sure that there's also an embroidery design, but my mom sent this to me from Amazon. I thought it was pretty. I really like it. So anyway, time for some playing. And a quick thank you to Ann Gaylord. You sent some very nice, generous donation on PayPal, and I just wanted to thank you very much. And your kind note really made my day. I appreciate you so much. I almost forgot to ask how you're doing with your goal. Remember, we have a goal for this quilt project. So whether it is eating healthier or exercising or getting your craft room clean or more family time or more project time, whatever it is, I want to hear how it's doing. Leave a comment on YouTube or in our group and tell me how you're doing. My goal was to eat healthier and get lots of exercise. And I did really good for a long, long time. And then my grandkids came to town. Totally sucked at it after that. Ate a lot of junk food and did not work out a lot. And now they're gone and my house is all back together. And so today I actually got 3 workouts on my treadmill. I was pretty excited about that. But anyway, doing well. And I packaged up all of the junk food that was left over from baking with all the grandkids, and I put it in the freezer. So like, if you really, really want a treat, then you'll have to wait for it to defrost. Have you ever tried that? That really works for me. So anyway, let me know how you're doing with your goal.